We're going to take over the dating industry. Yeah, I know. Sounds crazy, right? We all know dating apps suck right now. It's not that they suck, it's that they're not providing as much value as I would like them to be. And they are increasing the frequency that we find turds. um, so we are going to take over the dating industry by developing 3 different products. This is going to be a 3-step process to changing how the entire world shows up in relationships. So first, we're going to start with me. This is going to be a product that's aimed at the individual foundation in relationships and the individual. It's going to be how you show up in relationships. Start with us is going to be taking that foundation and learning how to take that and work with another foundation. So another person, whether you've got 1, 2, 3, 10 partners, whatever your relationship structure is, the idea is you will learn how your foundation is able to work with another foundation to build something upon that, right? So now you're going to build your building on top of that foundation, your relationship, your life, your world, and you'll have very strong and established foundations that will only make that building stronger to live out of. Then step 3 is flavor of teal. This is going to be the behind the bedroom door of the individual and the partners, the couples, the relationships. This is going to get a little fun. That one. We'll explain each step as we go. So start with me, which is step 1, is has to be developed first because it is going to be part of the foundation that's going to live inside of Start With Us. But it's all content and information that all needs to be known and understood before you can even get to Flavor of Teal so that you can have the best sex of your life. Because if you don't understand yourself, you're not comfortable with yourself, you're not confident with yourself, and you're not comfortable and confident in the relationship that you're in, you're not going to have the greatest sex in the world. You may have amazing sex, it may be mind blowing, but it's only going to get better the more you know. The more you understand, the more you feel comfortable, the more confident you are. So, start with me is step 1, stage 1. It is the foundation. Start With Me is going to be a dating app that requires you to go through a psychology-based self-discovery journey before you're allowed to start swiping in the dating pool. So what this is going to do is this is going to require everyone who swipes in this dating pool to meet a certain level of understanding of themselves. Now, what does that do for everyone in that dating pool? That makes relationship or this level of knowledge a standard across the entire group of people who are showing up and saying, hey, you know what? I would love an emotionally intelligent partner. Let me become emotionally intelligent myself. Let me go find some partners who do the same. And then you'll find like-minded people who are willing to work on themselves, right? Especially when it comes showing up in relationships. So, this psychology-based self-discovery journey is going to start out with you learning about emotional intelligence. I'm going to give you the very high-level description. Emotional intelligence is your ability to recognize and read emotions internally and coming from other people, and then making choices that are the best suited for that situation, right? After you've consumed that information, then you're going to go off and take a quiz. You're going to learn whether you have a low, medium, or high emotional intelligence. Then we're going to get into attachment styles. Attachment styles are the relationships you choose in your life. Then we're going to kick you off to go take a quiz at one of the psychologies. You're going to be taking a quiz, Experience in Close Relationships Scale by Kelly Brennan, Catherine Clark, and Philip Shaver. They are doctors in the industry who developed the attachment style quiz. Then so attachment styles will cover how you are choosing your relationships and the relationships you choose, right? So these are your connections to people. The next one is you're going to dive into the topic matter of personalities, understanding your own personality traits. This where you're going to run over to the Myers-Briggs company, and you're going to take the Myers-Briggs personality test. You're going to learn more about yourself, and you'll understand now a lot of the behaviors that you're already doing and how that's categorized in psychology, right? Which gives you a better idea of yourself and the actions you're choosing and why you're choosing them. So then we're going to move on to love languages. And now this is going to cover the section of feeling loved. What makes you feel loved? And now we cover that covers the broad spectrum of how you are showing up in a relationship. And that's what we want you to get. We want you to understand the foundation of it. That same foundation, this journey itself, is going to live inside of Start With Me, and it's also going to live inside Start With Us. Because if you're in a relationship, we don't want you going to download an app for singles in order to go hit the self-discovery journey. The self-discovery journey has so much value that it's required in order for you to even start building the Start With Us foundation where you're working with a partner, because you need to understand yourself. Even nowadays, even in my marriage failed, and there was a lot I didn't understand about myself. There was a lot I thought I understood about myself. So this is all required before you start building a relationship or a house with somebody else, because you need to get a secure and solid foundation. So this journey will live in Start With Me and Start With Us. After you complete this journey, then you'll be permitted to start swiping in the dating pool. In Start With Us, after you complete the journey, this is where you'll be connected with your partner. Okay, back to Start With Me. Start With Me. This is the perfect place for individuals to get into, because they're going to be exposed to a lot of information, and this information is not something that all of a sudden you get exposed to it and you're like, oh wow, now my entire life is different. It's going to take time of you applying that information and trying to figure out what works best for you, right? You now have an understanding of where you are, so now you have a measurement. Now you can take an aim in where you want you to be in relationships, and then you can work towards it. Attaching it to a dating app makes it perfect, because you're learning these skills about yourself and how you show up to a relationship, and then you're put into a pool of people all doing the same thing. So not only are you not an odd one out, you're also with like-minded people who are saying, hey, you know what? Maybe there's a little work I could be doing. And I understand you're doing work. So let's see if where we're at is compatible for where we want to be. And then you can do work together. But it's going to be such a great segue, because on top of it, just imagine the relationship conversations, or the self-conversation. Imagine the conversations you're going to get as soon as you land in that dating pool, right? Your first date, it's going to be a lot of like, okay, well, what did you learn about yourself? What do you see that you need to work on? It's going to be opening yourself up to a new level of vulnerability that you're probably not going to be used to. And it's common knowledge for everyone in that pool. So they're all going to be exposed to it on their own, right? They have their own world to live in, but at the same time, they're going to have all of that information. So it's going to stem a level of comfort. It's going to stem a level of conversation. It's going to encourage these conversations. And on top of that, you're also now telling your future partner, hey, I understand there is how to say this? There are topics that I am working on, and now that we've kind of both established that we're welcoming this input, it should reduce the issues of having to bring this up in conversation, right? It should be a lot easier to approach now that you have stemmed a lot of your relationship off of this foundation. It's probably a better way of saying all that, but we're going to move forward anyway. So those are some of the biggest values and why Start With Me is a self-discovery journey that's attached to a dating application. The way the dating application is going to work once you get out of the self-discovery journey is going to be the way most of the dating apps will work. We're going to take some user experience research and we're going to adjust things a little bit. But for the most part, you're very familiar with a lot of the same practices of swiping, reading through bios, looking at images, trying to find the connecting factor of why you want to connect. And then we'll try to find ways by vetting the UX of other apps, making sure that we negate some of the issues or some of the publicly known issues that other people are having in bad experiences. Then that's going to stem into stem. I keep using the word stem. I don't know where that's coming into. Anyway, this is going to stem you into or push you into Start With Us. Start With Us is going to be a dating application for couples. Now, you'll go through your individual foundation. If you're coming from Start With Me, that information will be available. They're all going to share the same back end, so this information is going to get connected. So then you'll pop into your relationship. You'll have your foundational information that you've already learned for yourself. Then you and your partner will build stuff together. Start With Us is going to be a combination of, like, you'll go through the self-discovery journey. It's going to you learn a lot of the same information, but as a couple, right? So it's going to be a lot of the same tactics, taking psychology, known factors, marriage therapy. There's a lot already known in marriage therapy and all this stuff as it is. So that's going to be a lot of the foundational information you'll get with Start With Us, but we're going to use it, do it in entertaining ways, so that the information is not like lecture based the whole time. It's going to be entertaining. If we can do it, turn a partner discovery into a beautiful date night of whatever, we're going to do that. Think of it like an adventure book meets family therapy, marriage therapist, plus dating coach, plus kind of all of that tied into one, being a big journey that you and your partner are going on together and growing together. Um, that's going to be the big factor there. That's going to be how that all goes. That's going to stem into Flavor of Teal. You start getting behind the bedroom doors. Now, there is a lot of psychology that goes into the sexual side of relationships with an individual, right? Getting into the whole masturbation thing, getting into married couples or couples, non-couples, whatever. The sexual side of thing comes with a lot of psychology stuff as well. Phenomenal book that I remember audio booking with my ex one time we were going up to Tahoe was Come As You Are. It is hands down. I think it was a book that I think all guys in marriages should listen to as well as women. But it was a lot of breaking down and understanding and accepting of oneself and how you show up. Because, like, once you accept yourself and you can feel comfortable in yourself, you can open up more. You can have better sex. You can have a better time by being more confident and understanding. But you have to weigh through all of the stuff that brought you to wherever your problems are, should we say. So what we're going to do is guide you around the same path. So we're going to do a lot of that stuff. Then there is this phenomenal doctor in, she's got a company called TurnOn.love out of Oakland, California. She holds some phenomenal seminars and classes about kink and relationships and stuff like that. But she's basically a sex ed doctor. That sounds like I'm inaccurate about that. But either way, TurnOn.love. Go check it out. It's phenomenal. But take some of those same concepts, mix it in with some kink and relationship stuff on how connecting with these relationships. The kink world is very intriguing if you start diving into it because their communication levels are far above what a standard relationship is. Like, if you're going to dive into the world of kink, there's like a standard of information and practices and consent driven practices and boundaries and self discovery and self awareness that is so robust and so well established that I was blown away when I started getting into it. And I was like, wait, you're telling me all of these people already well aware of self-discovery, intense understanding themselves, diving deeper into all this stuff. They're consent oriented. They learn how to set boundaries. They learn how to withdraw boundaries. They learn how to withdraw consent. They learn how to reestablish boundaries. Like, it's such a phenomenal way of being in a relationship that this is what the regular dating world should be. So what I want to do is take all of that stuff, combine it with entertaining ways of consuming it. So, maybe there'll be some webinars, maybe there'll be some quizzes, some going through the stuff, but there'll also be a book series, there'll also be a TV series. There's going to be various products and articles and lessons and stuff to consume that will increase your knowledge and experience in that side of the world. So that is how we are going to change the world and how people show up in relationships. And now, why will this change the world? It's just a various level of dating apps, right? So it's basically a dating app for singles, a dating app for couples, and a sexual dating app. It's kind of the way you could see it. This is going to change the world through a distribution and trickle-down effect of this information being shared. Now, because this is all psychology based, and it's going to be using and working with these organizations, this information has already been validated. It's not some woo-saw, works for me, God said this, the spirit said that, the moon showed up upside down, so like it's time to do whatever. Like, this is all science that we have entire college degrees that flex across the entire world in other countries as well that are studying all of the same things, understanding people themselves and how they are in relationships and the mental and the psychology of everything, right? So taking that information and distilling it down into consumable product with the aim to educate and create a standard level of information across society is the goal. That's the important factor, right? Now think about it this way: Tinder's right now, or last I was looking, Tinder has 79 million active users. I think Hinge is Hinge and Bumble comes in second, I think, at 52 million, and then Hinge is like 23 million or something like that last time I was looking at the numbers. But imagine these dating apps getting up into those numbers. Start with me. Perfect example. Start with me builds the foundation of the individual. We consume the market because now we're providing a dating application that actually has a tangible outcome that people can actually use. I got distracted because somebody popped in and then popped out, but don't worry about it. So this information is then going to be distributed across the entire world because there'll be so many users who get exposed to it in the first place, right? So they'll get that level of information. This information will become standard across them. What's up, motivator? I love you, man. So with this being I'm blushing. That's hilarious. So with this information going out across the world, it will have a trickle-down effect. It will start expanding into everyone else's relationships, right? So if you have an individual who shows up, they get into a relationship with somebody who didn't go through the process, they'll have this information. They'll share this information. They're going to educate the people around them. Their advice is then going to go out. It's going to spread out around the world. Creating organizations, developing this content is going to expand the awareness across the world. Now, the way this is being structured is with the intent of making this dating app valuable by providing information that helps people show up to relationships and have better relationships. We want your dates to go better. We want your life to go better. Your connection to people, how you connect to people, is going to be more valuable because you're going to take time to learn about how you show up. So, therefore, you can work on it. The way this is going to be ever revolving and have real value is we're going to partner with these psychology organizations that run each subject matter of their own. Excuse me. For example, there's emotional intelligence. There's a group of people who study emotional intelligence. Attachment style. There's a group of people who study attachment styles. Personality traits. There's people who study groups of personality traits, like the Myers-Briggs organization. There are organizations, or an organization, Dr. Gary Chapman, who runs the love languages. Now, partnering with these guys and having authentic information and doing this correctly, if we can give them the real value of this input coming in, they can now take that value in the entire psychology industry, now can use this data to study how people are connecting in relationship. They can go through each section of the flow of the relationship and actually get a lot more valuable information out of it in order for them to recognize patterns and derive what they can learn out of this. This is my hopes and aims. My aim, this is what's going to happen, is if these organizations don't work with us, I'll just hire psychologists to build organizations that work on this. The entire aim is to better how people show up in relationships so that we can better relationships for all of society. Now, it's going to be a two-way growth factor. These guys are going to receive all of this information, and once we start scaling and breaking past the industry leaders like Tinder and Bumble and all of them, 52 million with the Bumble user base, 79 million with the Tinder user base. That is a lot of data coming into each one of these industries. And not only are they getting the specialized subject matter information that they cover, for example, Myers-Briggs covers personality tests, personality traits, the 16 different personality types and all of that stuff. They'll now have access to understanding what those personality types are now connected to with their love languages, with their attachment styles, their current start of emotional intelligence knowledge to their output. So there's going to be so much information, and if we build this app properly, we build it securely, we do it in a way that psychologists can actually use this information coming in, we can increase the level of awareness into our society's health and input and data, like understanding how people are showing up in relationships on a vastly larger scale. Because you start getting into these studies, and you'll get a couple thousand people in each one of these studies, a couple hundred of people in these studies. Now, could you imagine what they'd be doing with a database of 79, 89, 100 million users, where you now understand their comprehension of emotional intelligence, their attachment style, their personality types, their love languages? You're now building out a larger persona of these people, and you're getting this data in real life. And on top of it, because it's connected with Start With Me, is now connected with Start With Us and Flavor of Teal, you're also getting that data to track through the individual by themselves getting into a relationship, now established in a relationship, and more stuff behind the bedroom door, right? There is so much data. If we can build this to be ever evolving and connected with the right organizations, this data will shift, and this information and knowledge will shift and change with society. It will be an ever living organization that kind of thrives with society, and society will also dictate the way this information gets taught and shifted, because we'll be consuming all of the information, learning where the shifts and changes are, and then we'll be able to help educate, guide as it goes. So it's going to be a forever growing product that's going to move forward in synchrony and harmony with society. And then we will have it's a level of knowledge over time that's ever growing. You'll have psychology organizations that are growing larger and larger with more robust and better information, forwarding the psychology information we have on human society. I hope that makes sense. So we'll create data to give to these psychology organizations. Psychology organizations will evaluate that data and give back more information. I just sneeze really. Oh, bless you. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay. So we'll be able to provide them with a full picture of data with a large number of users. Each organization will then be able to take that information they have now and correlate that with the other various departments of subject matter, as I'm kind of calling it. And they'll be able to derive more educational information out of these patterns because they'll have larger user bases. They'll have larger sets of data to work with and evaluate. I have no idea what's going to come out of it, but I can only imagine. We've gotten this far in psychology as it is. Relationship, dating advice, all of this stuff is all derived off of what we currently know as a society in these organizations. Now, could you imagine the advancement we'll have when you shovel so much data into it? But it has to be established well enough so that everything is consumable and organized in a way where it's not trash data, right? Because then it's just as useful as doing internet research. I think that will kind of cover it. I hope that makes sense. I hope you can see the level of effect that this entire dating products are going to have on the psychology industry, as well as psychology is going to be involved in effect in the dating products. Thank you. Look forward to it.